Hello, and welcome to Entirely English, the online English school and the YouTube channel dedicated to helping people understand the British. And in this series, we are looking at weights and measures, the old imperial system versus the metric system. In the previous video, we looked at distances and sizes, inches and feet versus millimeters and meters. Today, we are looking at volume, so gallons and pints versus milliliters and liters. But while we're talking about volume, I'll take a little sidetrack here and welcome Abdullah, our newer subscriber. Welcome, Abdullah. I hope you enjoy these videos and find them interesting. I say our newer subscriber, it's the latest one I've had a name for. Probably since the last time I mentioned a new subscriber. I've had about 10 subscribers since then. But YouTube hasn't given me your names. So if you're a subscriber, please put your details below. Introduce yourself. Let us know who you are and where you're from and what your interests are. So moving on from the volume of subscribers, let's go on to the volumes in imperial and metric. Now, just like the inches and feet and meters and centimeters, we use both imperial and metric in our volume measures. So, as I said previously, in 1971, we took on decimalization, which meant we took on the metric system. But we didn't abandon the imperial system, and a lot of our daily lives are still governed by it. So the two units of imperial we will look at are the pint and the gallon. There are other measures, as you can see in this table, but they're mostly used for trade. We don't need to go into all the greater and lesser sizes. In pubs, you will buy your beer in pints, a pint of beer. And in the supermarket, we tend to buy our milk in pints. This is thanks to the Statutory Instrument Act of 1995, which allows the use of imperial in the selling of beer and cider and milk in reusable containers. So our plastic bottles, for example, or glasses. So as you can see in this video, this carton of milk is labeled at 4 pints, roughly 2.2 litres. Some supermarkets and other shops do cheat, because as a customer, you go in and you look for a familiar size. You look at the container, and then it's not till later when you look at the measure that you realize you bought a 2-litre bottle of milk, not a 2.2 litre, 4-pint bottle. So they're selling less, but charging the same price. So if you're shopping in Britain, be careful of that. Do look at the measure on the side of the container. Interestingly, if we go around the corner to the pop and beer section, these are sold in milliliters. So this bottle of Fanta is 500 milliliters, roughly 1 pint. Same with the beer, milliliters. Don't ask me why. They could be sold in pint measurements. And back to our favorite place, the pub. In the pub, you order pint or half a pint. Again, because of that Statutory Instrument Act, the glasses have to be marked with an official stamp, showing that the line on the side of it, sometimes there'll be a line near the top, is exactly 1 pint. If there's no line, then the glass has to be filled to the top. So if you order a beer and there's an inch or 2 centimeters of head on the top of it, they are shortchanging you. They're giving you less beer than you've paid for. So you get a glass like that and you say to the barman, "Hey, do you want to know how to sell more beer?" "Yes, fill the glass." We consider the pint as the perfect measure. It's a convenient amount, convenient sized glass. And when you drink it, it's still got the bubbles. When you get to the end of it, the bubbles, the gas, the fizz. I know that in Europe, they tend to sell it in the litre and half litre. you look at this picture from the Oktoberfest in Germany. These are liter glasses of beer. Look pretty big, don't they? Two things to think about. If you're drinking a full liter of beer, by the time you've got halfway through it, it's probably gone flat, which means it's lost the gas. Second thing to think about is look at this picture again carefully. Nearly half the glass is head. So you're actually only getting a pint of beer. Now, a gallon is 8 pints. 8 pints to a gallon, 2 pints is called a quart, quarter of a gallon. And again, we still tend to think in gallons when we're talking about, for example, cars. You'd ask, how many miles to the gallon does this car do? If you were told this car does 10 kilometers per litre, it would mean nothing, well, nothing to a British person. If you say it does 50 miles to the gallon, you say, ooh, that's pretty good. Obviously, that's going to change with electric cars. They do 300 miles on one charge in a laboratory. And we're going to be stuck with that until somebody gets sensible and starts developing the hydrogen system. But that aside, the petrol is sold in the petrol stations by the litre. Now, I remember back in 1983, 85, something like that, my father complaining when petrol went up to 65 pence a gallon. Now it's sold by the litre. It's 134 per litre. Roughly changes every day. Now think, there are 4.5 litres to a gallon. So that works out to just over £6 per gallon. Nearly 10 times what my father was paying. But I guess by selling it by the litre, it doesn't sound so terrible, so horrendous. It just is. Now, as I said, I'm not going to go into all the various units of volume measurement. The gallon and the pint are the ones that are most often used, unless you find an old cooking book which tells you to use 2 fluid ounces of water. Then you're going to have to do some conversions. But as a side note, there is a difference, again, like the inches. There is a difference between the Imperial gallon and the American gallon. The Americans adopted a smaller measure for their gallon in 1836. So while they can sell something as a gallon, it is actually less than the Imperial gallon. Maybe the idea was to say, the British are selling rum at this price per gallon. We can sell it at this price per gallon, but we're actually selling less rum. We're making more profit. That sort of thing. But actually, that kind of backfired because the Turks and the Kalas Islands use both measures. But they levied a tax on it at the same rate. So it doesn't differentiate between an Imperial gallon and American gallon. So they sell a gallon and put this much tax on it. So if they sell to America or someone using American gallons, those people are paying more because the tax is the same, but the volume is less. Yeah, British Imperial gallon is 4.5 litres roughly, whereas an American gallon is 3.76, nearly a litre difference. So I guess what goes around comes around. So although the gallon has ceased to be a primary unit of scale in trade, it is still legally used in the UK and Ireland and probably other of our overseas territories as a volume measure. But large containers of fluid like beer and oil are still very much measured in the imperial system. Okay? So I'm sure most of you are interested in the pint in the pub as a measure. Do be careful if you're going shopping. Look at the measures on the side of the container. See if you're buying litres or pints and what the price difference is. You might get 2 bottles of Coke, for example, in different shops, and they are the same price. But then when you look at the measure at different volumes, they just look similar. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found that useful. If you're coming to Britain, do be careful when shopping, and do be careful of our pints as well, because they contain more alcohol than, say, in the US, generally speaking. Anyway, I'll see you again next time. If you enjoyed this, do please click the like button. If you want to stay up to date, click subscribe. Do put some comments below. Maybe your country has the same system of measures with the Imperial or your metric. Maybe you became metric recently, relatively recently, and you still have this crossover of old measure and new measure. For example, I think China had a very different measure previously. I'm not sure if they're metric. If you're from China or one of the Asian countries, pop it in the comments, let me know. All right. The next one is going to be a short one on temperature. There's not a lot to say about temperature, so expect a short video next. And I hope you're not too cold in this winter. I will see you again next time. Bye-bye now.